The morning sun felt warm on Minho's face as his caregiver pushed his wheelchair through the crowded farmer's market. The 9-year-old boy loved Saturday mornings like this. The market was always full of colors, sounds, and interesting people. Vendors called out their prices, customers haggled over vegetables, and somewhere in the distance, street musicians played soft melodies. Minho's body didn't work the way other children's bodies did. He had cerebral palsy, which made his muscles tight and his movements jerky. He couldn't walk and his hands shook when he tried to hold things. But his mind was sharp and his heart was full of dreams. His biggest dream was to become an artist. Mrs. Choi, his caregiver, stopped the wheelchair near a vegetable stand. She needed to buy some fresh carrots and cabbage. Minho didn't mind waiting. He loved watching people pass by. Each face told a different story and he imagined painting them all someday. On his lap, he held his precious sketchbook. The pages were filled with drawings that looked shaky and rough, but they were his pride and joy. He had drawn the view from his bedroom window, the birds that visited the garden, and the kind face of Mrs. Choi. Art was the one thing that made him feel normal, even when his hands refused to cooperate. While Mrs. Choi bargained with the vegetable seller, Minho noticed a small art supply shop across the path. Bright tubes of paint were displayed in the window, arranged like a rainbow. His heart jumped with excitement. He had only used cheap colored pencils before. Real paint seemed like something from a dream. He wanted to get closer to look at the paints, but he couldn't push his wheelchair by himself. Mrs. Choi was still busy talking about prices. Minho sighed and tried to content himself with looking from a distance. Suddenly, a loud crash startled everyone nearby. A worker at the art shop had accidentally knocked over a large display of paint tubes. They scattered across the ground, rolling in every direction. Some rolled toward Minho's wheelchair. The worker, a teenage boy, looked panicked and started chasing after the tubes. The noise scared Minho. He jumped in his wheelchair and his sketchbook slipped from his lap. It fell to the ground and the pages scattered in the light breeze. Minho's heart sank. Those drawings were everything to him. He tried to reach down, but his body wouldn't cooperate. His arms moved stiffly and he couldn't bend far enough. "Oh no," he whispered, watching helplessly as his drawing started to blow away. A young woman who had been walking past saw what happened. She immediately rushed over and knelt beside his wheelchair. She was wearing simple jeans and a paint-stained sweater. Her long black hair was tied back in a messy ponytail, and she had kind eyes that crinkled when she smiled. "Don't worry, I'll get them," she said softly. She quickly gathered the scattered pages, chasing down the ones that had blown a few feet away. She carefully brushed the dirt off each drawing before placing them back in order. As she collected them, she actually looked at each picture. Really looked at them. Minho watched her face nervously. Most adults just gathered his things quickly without paying attention. They treated him like he was fragile or invisible. But this woman was different. She studied each drawing with genuine interest. "Did you draw these?" she asked, looking up at him with surprise in her voice. Minho nodded shyly. He expected her to say something polite but meaningless the way most people did. Instead, she smiled widely. "These are really beautiful. I love how you captured the movement of this bird. See here?" She pointed to one of his drawings. "The way the wings curve shows it's about to land. That's not easy to draw." Minho's eyes widened. She understood. She actually saw what he was trying to show. His heart felt like it might burst with happiness. "You're an artist too?" he asked quietly. His voice always came out a bit slurred because of his condition, but she didn't seem to notice or care. "I'm studying art at university," she said, still kneeling beside him so they were at eye level. "My name is Ji-won. What's yours?" "Minho," he replied, feeling braver now. Ji-won carefully placed all the drawings back in his sketchbook and handed it to him. Their eyes met, and Minho felt like he had found a friend. Not someone who pitied him or treated him like a baby, but someone who saw him as a real artist. "Do you paint, Minho?" Ji-won asked. He shook his head sadly. "I only have colored pencils. My hands shake too much anyway. I don't think I could hold a paintbrush right." Ji-won's face became thoughtful. "Can I show you something?" She reached into her bag and pulled out a small sketchbook of her own. She flipped through the pages until she found what she was looking for. It was a drawing of a paintbrush attached to what looked like a special holder. "I volunteer at a children's hospital," Ji-won explained. "I teach art to kids there. Some of them have trouble holding brushes too. We use these special grips." They help steady your hand. Look, you can make one with just a foam tube and some tape. It's really simple. She showed him the sketch from different angles, explaining how it worked. Minho listened to every word, his mind racing with possibilities. Maybe he could paint after all. Mrs. Choi finally finished her shopping and came back to find Minho deep in conversation with a stranger. She looked worried at first, but when she saw Minho's happy face, she relaxed a little. "I'm sorry, is everything okay?" Mrs. Choi asked. "Everything's fine," Ji-won said, standing up and bowing politely. "I was just talking to Minho about art. He's very talented." Mrs. Choi smiled but started to push the wheelchair away. They had more shopping to do. Minho felt disappointed. He didn't want this conversation to end. "Wait," Ji-won said suddenly. "I work at the cafe just down the street. Let me buy Minho something, a gift from one artist to another." Before Mrs. Choi could refuse, Ji-won hurried to the art supply shop. The teenage worker had finished cleaning up the spilled paints. Ji-won spoke to him for a moment, then bought a small set of watercolor paints and 2 brushes. Minho saw her count out money from her wallet carefully, using what looked like small bills and coins. It was clearly not expensive paint, but to him it might as well have been gold. She came back and placed the small bag in Minho's lap. "These are starter paints, but they're good quality. And see these brushes? They have thick handles, which might be easier for you to hold. Give them a try." Minho looked down at the bag, then up at Ji-won. His eyes filled with tears, but they were happy tears. No one had ever given him something like this before. No one had ever believed in his art like this. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Ji-won knelt down one more time and looked him in the eyes. "Keep drawing, Minho. Keep painting. The world needs to see what you can create. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do something. Your art is special because it comes from your heart, not just your hands." She stood up and waved goodbye as Mrs. Choi pushed the wheelchair forward. Minho clutched his new paints and kept turning around to wave back until Ji-won disappeared into the crowd. That night, lying in his big bed in his big empty house, Minho couldn't stop thinking about the kind woman at the market. He looked at the paint set on his bedside table and made a decision. He would paint something special. He would paint Ji-won's face exactly as he remembered it, with her kind eyes and warm smile. It would be his way of saying thank you. He didn't know that this one painting would change everything. He didn't know that it would bring his father back to him and turn Ji-won's life upside down. All he knew was that for the first time in a long time he felt truly happy. Minho's house was enormous. It had 3 floors, 12 bedrooms, a swimming pool, and a garden that seemed to stretch forever. But to Minho it always felt empty and cold. The marble floors echoed with every sound. The tall ceilings made voices seem small and far away. It was a house built for showing off, not for living in. His father, Dae-sung Park, owned one of the biggest technology companies in South Korea. He made phones and computers that people all over the world used. He was always in meetings, always on planes, always somewhere else. Minho understood that his father's work was important, but he wished his father would spend more time at home. 3 years ago, Minho's mother had died in a car accident. After that, his father seemed to disappear even more into his work. It was like he couldn't stand to be in the house anymore because everything reminded him of her. Minho missed his mother every day, but he also missed his father, even though his father was still alive. Mrs. Choi took care of Minho most of the time. She was kind and patient, making sure he ate healthy meals, did his physical therapy exercises, and finished his homework. But she wasn't family. She went home every evening at 6 o'clock, and then Minho was alone with the night nurses who sat in the next room, not really paying attention to him. The day after meeting Ji-won at the market, Minho asked Mrs. Choi to help him set up his paints. She cleared space on the desk in his room and covered it with old newspapers. She filled a cup with water and found some paper towels for cleaning brushes. "Are you sure you want to try this?" Mrs. Choi asked gently. "Painting might be harder than drawing." "I want to try," Minho said firmly. He had been thinking about it all night. He wanted to paint Ji-won's face while the memory was still fresh in his mind. Mrs. Choi helped him into his chair at the desk. Minho opened the paint set and stared at the colors. They were beautiful, even in the small plastic containers. Red, blue, yellow, green, purple, orange. He dipped his brush in water and then touched it to the blue paint. His hand shook badly as he brought the brush to the paper. The first stroke was wobbly and uneven. Paint dripped where he didn't want it to drip. Minho felt frustrated tears starting to form in his eyes. Maybe Mrs. Choi was right. Maybe this was too hard, but then he remembered what Ji-won had said. Your art is special because it comes from your heart, not just your hands. He took a deep breath and tried again. And again, and again, days turned into weeks. Every afternoon after his online school lessons finished, Min-ho worked on his painting. He made mistakes. He wasted paper. He got paint on his clothes and in his hair. But slowly, very slowly, the image in his mind started to appear on the paper. He painted Ji-won's face the way he remembered it. Her kind eyes that really looked at him. Her warm smile that made him feel seen. Her paint-stained sweater that showed she was a real artist. He worked on every detail, even though his hands fought him the whole way. Mrs. Choi noticed the change in him. He was happier now. He looked forward to each day instead of just getting through it. His physical therapist noticed too. Min-ho tried harder during his exercises because he wanted his hands to be steadier for painting. What are you working on so seriously? Mrs. Choi asked one day. It's a surprise, Min-ho said. I'll show you when it's finished. 6 weeks after the market encounter, Min-ho finally completed his painting. He looked at it for a long time. It wasn't perfect. The lines were still shaky in places. The colors weren't exactly right. But it captured something true. It captured the feeling of that moment when someone had seen him as a real person, a real artist. At the bottom of the painting, he carefully wrote in Korean, "The angel at the market." That same week, his father came home from a month-long business trip to America. Dae-sung looked tired as he walked through the front door. His suit was wrinkled and he had dark circles under his eyes. He was talking on his phone as usual, speaking in rapid English about stocks and investments. Min-ho waited in the entrance hall in his wheelchair. He had asked Mrs. Choi to help him get ready. He wore his best shirt and had combed his hair. He was holding his painting carefully, waiting to show his father. Dae-sung saw his son and gave him a quick smile while still talking on the phone. He patted Min-ho's head as he walked past, heading toward his study. Min-ho's heart sank, but he followed his father down the hall. In the study, Dae-sung finally ended his phone call. He sat down at his desk and started opening his laptop. "How have you been, Min-ho?" he asked, but his eyes were on the computer screen. "I made something for you," Min-ho said quietly. "That's nice," Dae-sung replied, typing something. "You can put it on the desk." Min-ho wheeled closer and placed the painting on the desk right in front of his father's keyboard. For a moment, Dae-sung glanced at it, then looked back at his computer. But then something made him stop. He looked at the painting again, really looked at it this time. "What is this?" he asked. "It's a painting," Min-ho said, "of someone I met at the market. She was really kind to me. She gave me paints and told me I could be an artist." Dae-sung picked up the painting and studied it more carefully. He could see how much work had gone into it. He could see the emotion in every brushstroke, even the shaky ones. He looked at his son's face and saw something he hadn't seen in a long time. Joy. Real, genuine joy. "This is good, Min-ho," Dae-sung said, and he meant it. "You worked hard on this." Min-ho's face lit up. "Really, do you like it?" "I do," Dae-sung said. Then his phone rang again. He looked at the screen and grimaced. "I'm sorry, I have to take this. It's Tokyo." Min-ho nodded and wheeled himself out of the study. He understood. Business was always more important. But at least his father had looked at the painting. At least he had said it was good. That was something that night Dae-sung couldn't sleep. He had important contracts to review, but his mind kept wandering. He walked through the quiet house and his footsteps echoed off the marble floors. He passed Min-ho's room and saw light under the door. He opened the door quietly and peeked inside. Min-ho had fallen asleep at his desk. His head was resting on his arms and there were paint smudges on his cheeks. The painting of Ji-won was propped up on an easel beside the desk, and there were dozens of practice sketches scattered around. Some were crumpled up. Some had notes in Min-ho's shaky handwriting. "Eyes not right. Try again. Smile too small. Must be bigger." Dae-sung stepped into the room and looked at the painting again. In the soft lamplight, it seemed even more beautiful. This wasn't just a picture. It was a window into his son's heart. Min-ho had poured everything into this. Days of work. Weeks of practice. All to capture one moment of kindness from a stranger. When was the last time Dae-sung had felt that kind of joy? When was the last time he had worked on something just because it made him happy? He couldn't remember. He looked at his sleeping son. Minho's life was harder than most children's lives. He would never run or jump or play sports. Simple things that other kids took for granted were major struggles for him. But here he was, creating beauty with hands that barely cooperated. Here he was, finding joy in a brief encounter with a kind stranger. Dae-sung felt ashamed. While Minho was experiencing this important moment in his life, where had he been? Across the world, in meeting after meeting, making more money that they didn't even need. His son had met someone special, and Dae-sung hadn't been there. Hadn't known. Hadn't cared to ask. He gently lifted Minho and carried him to bed. His son was light, too light. Had he been eating enough? Growing enough? Dae-sung realized he didn't know. He tucked Minho under the covers and brushed the hair from his forehead. On Minho's desk, Dae-sung noticed a small journal. He knew he shouldn't read it, but something made him open it. Inside were pages of Minho's thoughts written in simple sentences with many spelling mistakes. Today I met an angel. Her name is Jiwon. She talked to me like I was normal. She saw my art and said it was beautiful. She gave me paints. I want to be like her when I grow up. I want to make other people feel special too. Dae-sung closed the journal carefully. His throat felt tight and his eyes were wet. When had he last made his son feel special? When had he last really talked to Minho? Not just asked quick questions while checking his phone. He sat down at Minho's desk and looked at the painting for a long time. This woman, this Jiwon, had spent maybe 20 minutes with his son. Just 20 minutes. But in that short time, she had given Minho something precious. She had given him belief in himself. She had given him hope. She had given him the joy that shone through in every brushstroke of this painting. And what had Dae-sung given his son? Money, yes. A big house, fancy medical care, the best tutors. But none of that seemed to matter. Minho didn't need more things. He needed someone to see him. Really see him. The way this stranger had seen him. Dae-sung made a decision. He would find this woman. He would thank her properly for what she had done for his son. And maybe in the process he would learn how to be a better father. He would learn how to make his son smile the way he smiled when he talked about the angel at the market. He stood up and took one last look at the painting before turning off the light. Tomorrow he would start searching. Tomorrow everything would begin to change. The next morning, Dae-sung canceled all his meetings. His secretary was shocked. In 15 years of working for him, she had never seen him cancel a full day of appointments. But Dae-sung was determined. For once, business could wait. He ate breakfast with Minho for the first time in months. They sat at the huge dining table, which usually felt too big and empty. Minho seemed surprised to see his father at breakfast. He was even more surprised when his father actually put his phone away and asked him real questions. "Tell me about the woman in your painting," Dae-sung said. "What happened at the market that day?" Minho's eyes lit up. He told the whole story, from the falling paint display to Jiwon's kindness to the gift of the paints. As he talked, his hands moved excitedly, knocking over his juice glass. But Dae-sung didn't get angry. He just smiled and helped clean it up. "She sounds like a very special person," Dae-sung said. "She is," Minho agreed. "She made me feel like a real artist. Not like someone who can't do things right. Like someone who can create beautiful things." After breakfast, Dae-sung went to his study and made some calls. He reached out to a private investigation company that his business had used before. But this time he gave them very specific instructions. "I want you to find someone," he said to the head investigator, a sharp woman named Ms. Han. "But I want you to be respectful. No invasive methods, no following her around or scaring her. I just need to know who she is and how to contact her." "What information do you have?" Ms. Han asked. "Not much," Dae-sung admitted. "Her first name is Jiwon. She was at the farmer's market in Gangnam 6 weeks ago. She's an art student. She works at a cafe near the market, and I have this painting that my son made of her." He sent a photo of Minho's painting to Ms. Han's email. "Can you work with this?" There was a pause. Then Ms. Han said, "It won't be easy, but we'll do our best. Give us a few days." Those few days were the longest of Dae-sung's life. He found himself thinking about the search constantly. He also started spending more time with Minho. They ate meals together. He watched Minho paint. He even tried painting himself once, though his attempt was terrible and made Minho laugh. "You're worse than me, Dad," Minho giggled. "Much worse," Dae-sung agreed, laughing too. It felt good to laugh with his son. It felt good to be home. On the 4th day, Ms. Han called. "We found her." Dae-sung's heart jumped. That was fast. The painting helped, Ms. Han said. We showed it to vendors at the market. Several people recognized her. She works part-time at a cafe called Morning Brew. We tracked her from there. Ms. Han sent over a file. Dae-sung opened it on his computer and started reading. The more he read, the more impressed he became. Ji-won Kim was 26 years old. She was a graduate student at Seoul National University of Arts studying art therapy. She came from a small town and had moved to Seoul for university. Her parents ran a small grocery store back in her hometown. She worked 3 part-time jobs to pay for her education: the cafe, a tutoring position, and weekend shifts at an art supply store. But what really caught Dae-sung's attention was her volunteer work. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, Ji-won volunteered at Seoul Children's Hospital. She taught art classes to sick children, many of whom had disabilities or chronic illnesses. She had been doing this for 3 years, never missing a session. The report included testimonials from hospital staff. One nurse wrote, "Ji-won has a gift for connecting with children. She sees past their illnesses and disabilities. She helps them express themselves through art. Many of our patients look forward to her classes all week." Dae-sung felt a lump in his throat. This woman was exactly as Min-ho had described. An angel. Someone who gave her time and energy to help others, even though she was struggling to pay for her own education. She could have worked more hours at paying jobs, but instead, she chose to volunteer. The file also included information about her current situation. She lived in a tiny apartment in an old building. Her scholarship covered part of her tuition, but she had student loans. She often used her tip money from the cafe to buy small gifts for the children she taught, like the paints she had bought for Min-ho. Dae-sung closed the file and sat back in his chair. He felt humbled. Here was someone with so little giving so much, and here he was with more money than he could ever spend. But he hadn't even been present for his own son's important moments. He made a decision. He would go see her, but not as the billionaire CEO Dae-sung Park. He would go as just Min-ho's father. He wanted to meet her as a regular person, to understand who she really was before revealing his identity. The next Tuesday evening, Dae-sung drove to Seoul Children's Hospital. He dressed simply in jeans and a plain sweater. No expensive watch, no designer clothes. He wanted to blend in. He found the art therapy room on the pediatric floor. Through the window in the door, he could see Ji-won. She was sitting at a low table surrounded by 5 children. Some were in wheelchairs. Some had IV poles beside them. One little girl was completely bald from chemotherapy, but all of them were smiling. Ji-won was showing them how to paint with sponges instead of brushes. She demonstrated the technique, then helped each child try it. When a boy's hand trembled and he messed up his painting, she didn't treat it like a mistake. Instead, she showed him how to turn the smudge into part of the design. "There are no mistakes in art," Dae-sung heard her say through the door. "Only happy accidents that become something new." Dae-sung watched for over an hour. He saw how patient Ji-won was, how she encouraged every child, how she celebrated their small victories. When a little girl finally managed to paint a flower after several tries, Ji-won cheered so loudly that the nurses down the hall smiled. At the end of the class, Ji-won helped clean up. She carefully saved each child's artwork in folders with their names on them. She wiped down tables and organized supplies. A nurse came in to help and they chatted like old friends. "Same time Thursday?" the nurse asked. "Wouldn't miss it," Ji-won replied, smiling. As Ji-won left the hospital, Dae-sung followed at a distance. He felt a bit like a stalker, but he wanted to understand her life better. She stopped at a small market and bought instant noodles and eggs. Budget food. She walked to the subway station and waited on the platform with tired, slumped shoulders. Dae-sung realized she must be exhausted. She had probably worked at the cafe all day, then come straight to volunteer. And she still had homework to do for her graduate classes. Yet she never complained. She never looked resentful. She just kept going, kept giving. The next day, Dae-sung went to Morning Brew Cafe. He sat in a corner and watched Ji-won work. She took orders with a smile even when customers were rude. She made coffee drinks with care, creating little designs in the foam. During her break, she sat in the back and studied from a thick textbook. A little boy came in with his mother. He was maybe 5 years old and he ran straight to the counter. "Ji-won," he shouted happily. Ji-won's face lit up. "Hey there. How are you feeling?" "All better," the boy said. Look, no more cast. He showed her his arm, which had recently been in a cast. That's wonderful, Ji-won said. She came around the counter and high-fived him. Did you keep drawing like I taught you? The boy nodded enthusiastically and pulled a crumpled picture from his pocket. It was a crayon drawing of a rainbow. I made this for you. This is beautiful, Ji-won said, and she genuinely meant it. I'm going to hang it up right here behind the counter so I can see it while I work. She did exactly that, taping the picture to the wall where several other children's drawings were already displayed. The boy's mother thanked Ji-won quietly, and Dae-sung heard her say, You helped him so much at the hospital. Art therapy really made a difference during his recovery. After they left, Ji-won went back to work with a smile on her face. Dae-sung noticed she hadn't charged them for their drinks. He understood now. Completely understood. This wasn't just kindness. This was who Ji-won was at her core. She didn't help people because she expected something in return. She helped because it made her happy to make others happy. She saw the best in everyone, especially those who were struggling or different. That evening, Dae-sung sat in his study and looked at Min-ho's painting again. His son had somehow captured all of this in paint and paper. He had seen Ji-won's true nature in just 20 minutes. Children had a way of knowing who was genuine and who wasn't. Dae-sung picked up his phone and called Ms. Han. I need you to find out her schedule. When is she free? I want to meet her. Are you sure you want to approach her directly? Ms. Han asked. We could arrange— No, Dae-sung interrupted. No arrangements? No big gestures. I just want to talk to her. As Min-ho's father. Nothing more. Ms. Han was quiet for a moment. You're not going to tell her who you really are? Not at first, Dae-sung said. I want her to meet me as a person, not as a billionaire. I want to know if she would still treat Min-ho kindly if she knew who we were, or if she was only kind because she thought we were ordinary. From everything we've learned about her, I think she treats everyone with kindness, Ms. Han said gently. That's just who she is. I hope you're right, Dae-sung replied. But I need to be sure, for Min-ho's sake. That night he told Min-ho what he was planning. His son's face filled with excitement. You're going to meet Ji-won? Really? Dae-sung stood outside Morning Brew Cafe, suddenly feeling nervous. This was strange for him. He made business deals worth billions of dollars without breaking a sweat. He gave presentations to thousands of people, but the thought of talking to this young woman made his hand shake slightly. He took a deep breath and walked inside. The cafe was small and cozy, with mismatched chairs and local artwork on the walls. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air. It was early afternoon, and only a few customers sat at tables working on laptops or reading books. Ji-won was behind the counter, wiping down the espresso machine. She looked up when the door chimed and gave him a friendly smile. Welcome. What can I get for you? Dae-sung walked to the counter. Up close, he could see that she looked tired. There were dark circles under her eyes, but her smile was genuine. Just a coffee, please, black. Coming right up, she said, turning to prepare his drink. Dae-sung noticed the children's drawings taped to the wall behind her. There were at least 20 of them, all clearly made by young children. Some were just scribbles, some were wobbly stick figures, but each one was displayed with care. Those are nice drawings, he said. Ji-won looked back at them and her smile grew warmer. Aren't they? These are from the kids I teach. They always brighten my day. She handed him his coffee. That'll be 4,001. Dae-sung paid and stood there for a moment, unsure how to begin. Ji-won looked at him expectantly, probably wondering why he wasn't leaving. Actually, he said slowly, I wanted to talk to you about something. Are you busy right now? Ji-won glanced around the empty cafe. Not really. Is something wrong with your coffee? No, it's perfect, Dae-sung took a breath. My name is Dae-sung Park, I'm Min-ho's father. Ji-won's eyes widened immediately. Min-ho, the boy from the market? How is he? I've thought about him so many times. Dae-sung felt warmth spread through his chest. She remembered. She genuinely cared. He's doing very well, actually. Thanks to you. Thanks to me. Ji-won looked confused. I just talked to him for a few minutes and gave him some cheap paints. It was more than that, Dae-sung said. You gave him something much more valuable. You believed in him. You treated him like a real artist. Do you know what that meant to him? Ji-won came around the counter, her face full of concern. Is he okay? Did something happen? No, everything is fine, Daesung assured her. Better than fine. Since meeting you, he's been painting every day. He's happier than I've seen him in years. He even painted a portrait of you. He painted me? Ji-won looked touched. Really? Daesung pulled out his phone and showed her the photo of Minho's painting. Ji-won stared at it and her eyes filled with tears. She put her hand over her mouth. This is beautiful, she whispered. He captured so much emotion. You can feel it in every brushstroke. He calls it the angel at the market, Daesung said quietly. Ji-won laughed and wiped her eyes. I'm no angel. I just did what anyone would do. That's where you're wrong, Daesung said. Most people don't do what you did. Most people rush past. They don't see children like Minho. They see the wheelchair and the disability and they look away. But you saw my son, the real him. The artist he wants to be. Ji-won looked embarrassed. I just love art and I love working with kids. When I saw his drawings, I could see his talent. His disability doesn't change that. Another customer came in and Ji-won excused herself to take their order. Daesung sat down at a small table and waited. He watched her work, noticing the same patience and kindness she showed the hospital children. She chatted with the customer about their day and recommended a specific pastry. When the cafe was quiet again, Ji-won brought 2 fresh coffees to his table and sat down across from him. My break just started, she explained. Tell me more about Minho. Is he really doing better? Daesung told her everything. How Minho had worked for weeks on the painting. How his whole attitude had changed. How he was trying harder in physical therapy because he wanted his hands to be steadier for art. How he talked about Ji-won constantly, calling her his inspiration. I came here to thank you, Daesung said, and to ask if you would be willing to visit Minho. He asks about you all the time. Seeing you again would mean the world to him. Ji-won's face lit up. I would love to. I'd love to see what else he's been working on. Does he still have trouble with hand tremors? I could bring some different tools that might help him. That would be wonderful, Daesung said. He pulled out a business card and wrote his personal cell phone number on the back. Call me when you're free and we'll arrange a time. Ji-won took the card and looked at it. Daesung had been careful to use a simple card with just his name and number. Nothing that would reveal who he was. But Ji-won studied it for a moment, then looked up at him with a curious expression. Park Daesung, she said slowly. That name sounds familiar. Should I know you? Daesung's heart started beating faster. I have a common name. Ji-won said, but she didn't push. Well, thank you for coming to find me. It really does mean a lot to me. I volunteer with kids because I believe art can heal. Hearing that I made a difference for Minho makes all the late nights and hard work worth it. You volunteer? Daesung asked, pretending he didn't know. Where? At Seoul Children's Hospital, Ji-won said. I teach art therapy classes twice a week. Many of the children there have conditions similar to Minho's. Art gives them a way to express themselves when words are hard. That's amazing, Daesung said, and he meant it. That must be difficult work. Ji-won shrugged. It can be emotionally hard sometimes. Some of the children are very sick, but seeing them create something beautiful, seeing them smile and forget about their pain for a little while, that makes it all worthwhile. Her phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at it and sighed. My break is almost over, but I'll definitely call you about visiting Minho. Maybe this weekend? This weekend would be perfect, Daesung said. They exchanged goodbyes and Daesung left the cafe. As he walked to his car, he felt satisfied. Ji-won was exactly as she appeared to be. Kind, genuine, and selfless. She had no idea who he was, and she still agreed to visit Minho just because she cared about a child she had met once. That evening at dinner, Minho could barely contain his excitement when Daesung told him the news. She's coming here? To our house? This weekend, Daesung confirmed. She's really looking forward to seeing you again. Minho's face fell slightly. Dad, what if she thinks our house is too big? What if it makes her uncomfortable? Daesung hadn't thought about that. Minho was right. When Ji-won saw the mansion, she would immediately realize they were wealthy. Very wealthy. Would that change how she interacted with Minho? We'll just have to see, Daesung said gently. If she truly cares about you, the house won't matter. I hope so, Minho said quietly. I don't want her to treat me differently because we have money. She liked me when she thought I was just a regular kid. You are a regular kid, Daesung said firmly. Money doesn't change who you are inside. And I think Jiwon understands that better than most people. Saturday morning arrived. Daesung found himself nervous again. He had told the house staff to keep a low profile. He didn't want a parade of servants making Jiwon uncomfortable. Just Mrs. Choi would be there and she would stay in the background. Minho had spent all morning getting ready. He wanted to show Jiwon every painting he had done since meeting her. He had organized them in chronological order so she could see his progress. The doorbell rang at exactly 2 o'clock. Daesung went to answer it himself. Through the frosted glass, he could see Jiwon's silhouette. She was carrying a bag. He opened the door and Jiwon smiled brightly. Hello, I brought some things for Minho. New brushes and some special paper that's easier to... She stopped mid-sentence as she looked past him into the entrance hall. Her eyes went wide as she took in the marble floors, the crystal chandelier, the sweeping staircase, the expensive artwork on the walls. Oh, she said softly. Oh my. Daesung saw her connecting the dots. The big house, his name. Everything clicking into place. You're the Park Daesung, she said slowly. The CEO of Park Technologies. Daesung nodded. Yes, I should have told you at the cafe, but I wanted you to meet me as just Minho's father first. Jiwon looked shocked, but then her expression changed. She looked worried. Minho is your son? The heir to Park Technologies? First and foremost, he's just my son, Daesung said gently. A boy who loves art and who hasn't stopped talking about the kind woman who believed in him. Before Jiwon could respond, they heard wheels on marble. Minho came around the corner in his wheelchair, moving as fast as he could. Jiwon, you came! Jiwon's face transformed. All the shock and worry melted away, replaced by pure joy. She knelt down beside Minho's wheelchair. Of course I came. I've been so excited to see you again. And to see all the art you've been making. Minho grabbed her hand. Come on, I have to show you everything. I've been painting every day, just like you said. As Minho led Jiwon toward his room, chattering excitedly about his paintings, Daesung followed at a distance. He watched Jiwon's face. She was looking at the expensive house, the luxury everywhere. But when she looked at Minho, none of that mattered. Her focus was completely on his son. Maybe, just maybe, this really was going to work out. Maybe Jiwon would be the friend and mentor that Minho needed. And maybe through her example, Daesung would learn how to be the father his son deserved. Minho's room was large, but Jiwon barely noticed the expensive furniture or the view of the garden through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Her attention was completely focused on the dozens of paintings spread across every surface. They covered the desk, the dresser, even the floor in some places. Each one showed Minho's growth and determination. You've been so busy, Jiwon said, her voice full of wonder. She picked up a painting of a bird in flight. The lines were still shaky, but the movement and energy were captured beautifully. Minho, this is incredible. You can really see the bird's motion here, Minho beamed. That's a sparrow from our garden. I watched it for 3 days before I painted it. I wanted to get it exactly right. Jiwon moved from painting to painting, studying each one carefully. She asked questions about his technique, his color choices, his inspiration. She treated him like a serious artist, not a child playing with paints. Minho's answers grew more confident with each question. Daesung stood in the doorway watching. He had never seen his son so animated, so sure of himself. It was like watching a flower bloom. And this one, Jiwon said, stopping in front of the painting of herself. She stared at it for a long moment, her hand over her heart. Minho, this is beautiful. You made me look so much prettier than I really am. No, Minho said seriously. That's exactly how you look. That's how I see you. Jiwon's eyes filled with tears. She knelt beside his wheelchair and took his hand. Thank you. This is one of the most special gifts anyone has ever given me. They spent the next 2 hours together. Jiwon pulled supplies from her bag and showed Minho new techniques. She had brought special grips for his brushes, just like she had sketched at the market. She helped him attach them and watched as he painted with much more control. This is so much easier, Minho said excitedly. Look, my hand isn't shaking as much. It's not about stopping the shake completely, Jiwon explained. It's about working with your body, not against it. The shake can actually add character to your art. It makes it uniquely yours. She also brought him a book about an artist who had Parkinson's disease and continued painting despite his trembling hands. His later work is considered some of his best, Jiwon said. Critics say you can see the emotion and energy in every line. Minho held the book like it was treasure. Really? An artist with shaky hands became famous? Famous and respected, Jiwon confirmed. Your challenges don't define your art. Your heart and vision define it. Mrs. Choi brought them snacks and tea. Jiwon thanked her warmly and insisted on helping set up the small table, treating the caregiver with the same respect she showed everyone. Daesung noticed this. Jiwon didn't change her behavior based on someone's job or status. She was genuinely kind to everyone. As the afternoon wore on, Daesung finally joined them. He sat on the floor with Minho and Jiwon, something he hadn't done in years. His expensive suit would get wrinkled, but he didn't care. Jiwon, he said carefully, can I talk to you about something? She looked at him with those kind eyes. Of course. Minho told me about your volunteer work at the hospital. He told me about your studies in art therapy. I've been thinking about that a lot. Jiwon waited, not interrupting. I want to help, Daesung continued. Not just with Minho, but with your work. I'd like to fund your education, pay off your student loans, make it so you don't have to work 3 jobs and can focus on your studies and volunteer work. Jiwon's face went pale. What? No, I couldn't possibly. Please, let me explain, Daesung said, holding up his hand. This isn't charity. You've given my son something I couldn't give him with all my money. You've given him confidence, hope, a sense of purpose. That's priceless. Helping you finish your education is the least I can do. But that's too much, Jiwon protested. I just spent a little time with him. I gave him some cheap paints. That's not worth. It's worth everything to him, Daesung interrupted gently. And to me. Please, Jiwon, let me do this. Not as a billionaire trying to throw money at a problem, but as a father who's grateful. Jiwon looked at Minho, then back at Daesung. She was clearly uncomfortable. I don't know. It doesn't feel right. I didn't help Minho because I expected anything in return. I know, Daesung said. That's exactly why I want to help you. You give so much to others. Let someone give something to you for once. Minho wheeled closer to Jiwon. Please say yes. Then you won't be so tired all the time. And maybe you could visit me more often? Jiwon looked at the hopeful expression on Minho's face and her resistance crumbled a little. I would like to visit you more often, she admitted. And I do have a research project I want to do about art therapy for children with physical disabilities. It's hard to find funding for that kind of research. Then let me fund it, Daesung said, through my company's charitable foundation. It would be a legitimate grant for academic research. You'd have to write proper reports and show your findings, but you'd have the resources to do real work that could help other children like Minho. Jiwon thought about it for a long moment. Daesung could see her weighing her pride against the opportunity to help more children. Finally, she nodded slowly. If it's a proper research grant with expectations and accountability, then yes, I can accept that. But I want to earn it. I'll work hard and produce real results. I have no doubt about that, Daesung said, smiling. They talked details for a while. Jiwon explained her research ideas, and Daesung was impressed by how well thought out they were. She wanted to study how different art techniques could help children with various physical disabilities develop better motor control and emotional expression. It was serious academic work with real potential to help thousands of children. When can you start? Daesung asked. Well, I need to finish this semester first, Jiwon said, and I'd have to give proper notice at my jobs. I can't just abandon them without warning. The cafe especially needs time to find a replacement. Daesung admired her loyalty even to minimum wage jobs. Of course. Take the time you need. The grant will be waiting when you're ready. As the sun started to set, Jiwon prepared to leave. Minho looked sad to see her go. Will you come back soon? How about next weekend? Jiwon suggested. We could work on a special project together. Maybe a series of paintings about things that make you happy. Minho's face lit up. Yes, that sounds amazing. Daesung walked Jiwon to the door. Before she left, she turned to him with a serious expression. Mr. Park, I need to be honest with you about something. Please call me Daesung, he said. Daesung, she corrected. I'm grateful for your offer. Really grateful. But I need you to know that I would have visited Minho and helped him even without any money. In fact, I was planning to try to find him again to give him more supplies. He's a special kid and he deserves support no matter what. I know, Daesung said softly. That's why I trust you. You care about my son as a person, not as a rich man's heir. That's incredibly rare in my world, Jiwon smiled. He's easy to care about. He's talented, hardworking, and kind. You've raised a good son. Daesung felt a pang of guilt. I can't take credit for that. I've been an absent father, but I'm trying to change that. Watching you with him today, seeing how you encourage him and believe in him, it showed me what I should be doing. It's never too late to be present, Jiwon said gently. Minho clearly loves you. He talked about you a lot today, about how you've been eating breakfast with him and asking about his art. Those things matter to him. After Jiwon left, Daesung helped Minho get ready for bed. As he tucked him in, Minho grabbed his hand. Dad, I'm really happy. For the first time since Mom died, I feel really happy. Daesung felt his throat tighten. Me too, son. Me too. Jiwon is amazing, isn't she? Minho said sleepily. She really is, Daesung agreed. Dad? Minho's voice was getting softer as sleep pulled at him. Thank you for finding her. Thank you for being here more. I missed you. I missed you too, Daesung whispered. And I promise I'm not going anywhere. No more month-long trips. No more missing your important moments. From now on, I'm here. Minho smiled and closed his eyes. Within minutes, he was asleep. Daesung sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, watching his son sleep peacefully. A stranger's simple act of kindness had changed everything. It had woken him up to what really mattered. Success and money meant nothing if he wasn't there for his son. If he wasn't present for these precious years that would never come back. He thought about Jiwon and how she lived her life. She had so little in terms of material wealth, but she was rich in the ways that truly counted. She gave freely. She believed in people. She saw the best in everyone, especially those whom society often overlooked. Daesung wanted to be more like that. He wanted to use his wealth and resources to do real good, not just write checks to charities without caring about the impact. Jiwon's research could help countless children, and through supporting her work, he would be creating something meaningful, something that would outlast any technology his company developed. But more than that, he wanted to be the father Minho deserved. The father who showed up, who listened, who believed in his son's dreams even when they didn't make practical sense, who saw his son's ability, not his disability. It had taken a 26-year-old art student to teach a billionaire what really mattered in life. And Daesung was grateful for the lesson. He was ready to change, ready to be better, ready to make up for lost time. He stood up quietly and turned off the light. Tomorrow was Sunday. He had cleared his entire schedule. He and Minho would spend the day together, just the two of them. Maybe they would paint. Maybe they would just talk. It didn't matter what they did as long as they did it together. For the first time in 3 years, Daesung looked forward to tomorrow. Not because of a business deal or an important meeting, but because he would get to spend time with his son. And that was worth more than all the money in the world. 6 months had passed since that first visit, and everything had changed. The park mansion no longer felt empty and cold. It felt like a real home now, filled with laughter and color and life. True to his word, Daesung had dramatically reduced his travel schedule. He promoted trusted executives to handle overseas meetings. He learned to delegate in ways he never had before. His company continued to thrive, but now he left the office at reasonable hours. He ate dinner with Minho every night. He attended every physical therapy session. He even took up painting himself, though he was still terrible at it, which made Minho laugh every time. Jiwon had given notice at her 3 part-time jobs and was now fully focused on her graduate research. The Park Foundation had awarded her a generous grant, and she was making real progress on her study of art therapy for children with physical disabilities. She had already published 1 paper that was getting attention in academic circles, but more importantly, she had become a regular presence in Minho's life. She visited twice a week, and they had developed a comfortable friendship. She was part teacher, part mentor, part friend. Minho's artwork had improved dramatically under her guidance, but more than that, his confidence had grown. He no longer saw himself as a disabled boy who couldn't do things. He saw himself as an artist with a unique perspective. Today was a special day. Minho's artwork was being displayed in a real gallery. Jiwon had arranged for several of her students from the hospital, along with Minho, to have their work shown in a fundraiser exhibition for disabled young artists. The event would raise money for art therapy programs while showcasing the incredible talent of children who were often overlooked. The gallery was in a trendy neighborhood in Seoul, a small but respected space known for supporting emerging artists. Minho had been preparing for weeks, selecting his best pieces and even creating a few new works specifically for the show. Now, standing in his best clothes in front of the gallery entrance, Minho looked nervous. "What if people don't like my art?" he asked Daesung for the 10th time. "Then they have no taste," Daesung replied, adjusting his son's collar. "But I think you'll be surprised. Your work is powerful, Minho. It touches people's hearts." They entered the gallery together. The space was already filling with people. Families of the young artists, art collectors, journalists, and supporters of the cause. Soft music played in the background and waiters circulated with glasses of juice and small snacks. Ji-won spotted them and hurried over. She looked different tonight, dressed up for the occasion in a simple but elegant dress. But her warm smile was the same. "Minho, you made it! Come on, I need to show you where your paintings are hung." She led them to a section of the gallery where Minho's work was displayed. He had 5 paintings in the show. The portrait of Ji-won had the place of honor in the center, surrounded by his other works: The Bird in Flight, A Sunset Over the City, A Still Life of Flowers, and a self-portrait that showed him painting, his face full of concentration and joy. Each painting had a small placard with the title, the artist's name, and a brief description. Minho's placard read, "Minho Park, age 9. Minho has cerebral palsy and began painting 6 months ago. His work explores beauty, determination, and the power of kindness." The angel at the market had its own special description. This portrait represents the moment that changed the artist's life. A chance encounter with a kind stranger inspired him to pursue his passion for art and showed him that his disability does not define his ability to create beauty. Minho stared at his paintings on the gallery wall, tears forming in his eyes. "They look so official," he whispered. "Like real art." "It is real art," Ji-won said firmly. "Your art is as real and valuable as anything else in this gallery." People began to gather around Minho's section. They studied his paintings, reading the descriptions. Daesung watched their faces. He saw surprise, admiration, and emotion. Several people took photos. A few asked if the paintings were for sale. An elderly woman approached Minho. She had kind eyes and silver hair. "Are you the artist?" she asked gently. Minho nodded shyly. "Your work is magnificent," she said. "Especially this one." She pointed to the angel at the market. "You can see the love and gratitude in every brushstroke. Art that comes from the heart like this is rare. Never stop painting, young man." "Thank you," Minho said, his voice barely above a whisper. Throughout the evening, more people came to compliment Minho's work. A local art critic spent 15 minutes studying his paintings and asked Ji-won detailed questions about his techniques. A collector inquired about purchasing the sunset painting. Minho was overwhelmed by the attention, but Daesung and Ji-won stayed close, supporting him. The highlight of the evening came when the gallery director gave a short speech. She talked about the importance of art therapy and how it helped children overcome challenges and express themselves. Then she announced that the fundraiser had exceeded their goals. They had raised enough money to expand the art therapy program to 3 more hospitals in Seoul. "And we owe special thanks to the Park Foundation," the director said, "whose generous matching donation made this possible." Daesung hadn't told anyone that he was matching all donations dollar for dollar. He preferred to keep his charitable work quiet. But Ji-won looked at him with tears in her eyes and mouthed, "Thank you." As the crowd applauded, Minho tugged on his father's sleeve. "Dad, you did that?" "We did that," Daesung corrected. "Your art helped inspire people to donate. My money just matched their generosity. This is a team effort." After the speeches ended, Ji-won gathered all her young artists together for a photo. There were 8 children total, ranging from age 7 to 13. Some were in wheelchairs. Some had prosthetic limbs. One girl was blind and had created her art through touch and texture. But all of them were beaming with pride at seeing their work displayed professionally. As the photographer arranged them for the picture, Daesung stood back and watched. He saw Minho laughing with the other children, talking excitedly about their artwork. His son wasn't focused on what made them different. He was focused on what they shared, their love of art and their determination to create despite their challenges. Ji-won stood beside the group, one hand on Minho's shoulder. She looked at Daesung and smiled. He smiled back, grateful beyond words for the day she had stopped to help a boy pick up his scattered drawings at a farmer's market. Later, as the crowd thinned, Dae-sung found himself standing alone in front of the angel at the market. He studied the painting that had started everything. Minho had captured something essential about Ji-won in this portrait. Not just her physical appearance, but her spirit. Her kindness radiated from the painted face. Ji-won came to stand beside him. "It's strange seeing myself like this," she said softly. "Like I'm something special." "You are something special," Dae-sung said. "You changed my son's life. You changed my life too." Ji-won looked at him with surprise. "Your life? How?" "You showed me what I was missing," Dae-sung explained. "I was so focused on building my company, on being successful, that I forgot to actually live. I forgot to be there for my son. You reminded me that the most important things in life can't be bought or scheduled. Kindness, presence, belief in others, those things are priceless." "You've changed too," Ji-won observed. "Minho talks about you all the time now, about your painting sessions together, about how you help him with his homework, about the jokes you share. He's so happy to have his father back." "I'm happy to be back," Dae-sung said. "I wasted 3 years hiding from my grief over my wife's death. I let work consume me because it was easier than feeling the pain. But that meant I abandoned Minho when he needed me most. I can't get those years back, but I can make sure I'm here for him now." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, both looking at the painting. Then Ji-won said, "You know what's funny? That day at the market, I almost didn't stop to help. I was running late for class. I had a paper due the next day. Part of me wanted to just keep walking." "What made you stop?" Dae-sung asked. "I saw his face," Ji-won said simply. "He looked so devastated about his drawings blowing away. And I thought about all the children I work with at the hospital, how much their art means to them. I couldn't just walk past. I had to help." "I'm glad you did," Dae-sung said. "That one choice, that one moment of kindness, created ripples that touched so many lives. Not just Minho's, not just mine. Look around this gallery. All these children got to showcase their art because you organized this event. All these programs will be expanded because you inspired people to care." Ji-won blushed. "I just do what I love. I don't think about it like making a big impact. That's what makes it genuine," Dae-sung said. "You don't help people for recognition or reward. You do it because it's who you are." Minho wheeled over to them, his face glowing with happiness. "Dad, guess what? The art critic wants to interview me for a magazine article about young artists with disabilities. Can you believe it?" "I absolutely can believe it," Dae-sung said, ruffling his son's hair. "You're talented and people are starting to notice. Ji-won, will you help me prepare for the interview?" Minho asked. "I don't know what to say." "Of course," Ji-won said. "But I think you'll do great on your own. Just speak from your heart like you always do. Tell them why you love art and what it means to you." As they prepared to leave the gallery, the director approached them one more time. "Mr. Park, I wanted to thank you personally. Your foundation support means everything to us." "Thank you for giving these children a platform," Dae-sung replied. "They deserve to be seen and celebrated." The director smiled. "You know, the angel at the market has generated a lot of interest. Several people wanted to buy it, but I told them it's not for sale. It's a portrait of Ms. Kim, correct?" "Yes," Minho said proudly. "She's my inspiration." "I thought so," the director said. "The love in that painting is unmistakable. It's the best piece in the show, in my professional opinion. Not because of technique, though that's impressive for a child his age, but because of the emotion. That painting has soul." After they left the gallery, Dae-sung took Minho and Ji-won to a nice restaurant for a celebration dinner. They sat at a quiet table in the corner, and for 2 hours they talked and laughed and enjoyed each other's company. Minho talked non-stop about the evening, reliving every compliment and every moment of excitement. Dae-sung watched his son's animated face and felt his heart swell with love and pride. This was what happiness looked like. Not a corner office or a billion-dollar company. Not a mansion or expensive cars. Just time spent with people who mattered, celebrating genuine achievements, being present for life's important moments. As they drove home that night, Minho fell asleep in his wheelchair in the back of the car, exhausted but happy. Ji-won sat in the passenger seat looking out at the city lights. "Thank you," Dae-sung said quietly, not wanting to wake Minho. "For what?" Ji-won asked. "For everything," Dae-sung said. "For seeing my son when others looked away. For believing in him. For teaching both of us that disability doesn't mean inability. for reminding me what really matters in life." Jiwon was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You know what Minho told me last week? He said that meeting me was the second best thing that ever happened to him." "What was the first?" Dae-sung asked. "Getting his father back," Jiwon said softly. "That's what he said. That having you present in his life again was the best gift he could ask for." Dae-sung felt tears prick his eyes. He blinked them away and focused on the road. "I won't let him down again," he said firmly. "I promise." When they arrived at the mansion, Dae-sung carried Minho up to his room. As he tucked his son into bed, Minho's eyes opened briefly. "Best day ever, Dad," he mumbled sleepily. "Best day ever," Dae-sung agreed. After Minho was settled, Dae-sung walked Jiwon to her car. Before she got in, she looked up at the mansion, then at him. "You have a beautiful home," she said. "But you know what's really beautiful? What you've built inside these walls these past 6 months. A real family. Love and connection. That's worth more than any building." After Jiwon drove away, Dae-sung went back inside. He walked through the quiet house, but it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt full of memories and love. He stopped by Minho's room and peeked in at his sleeping son. On the wall, in a place of honor, hung a framed photograph of the angel at the market. Minho had wanted a copy at home, even though the original was in the gallery. In the photo, you could see every detail of the painting, every brushstroke, every imperfection, every ounce of love and gratitude that had gone into creating it. Dae-sung stood there for a long time, looking at the painting and thinking about everything that had happened. One small act of kindness at a farmer's market had changed 3 lives forever. It had given Minho confidence and purpose. It had given Jiwon the resources to pursue her passion and help countless other children. And it had given Dae-sung himself a wake-up call, reminding him that success without human connection was empty. He thought about all the important business meetings he had missed in the past 6 months, all the deals he had passed on, all the money he might have made if he had kept up his previous pace. And he didn't regret a single one of those choices. Being here for Minho, watching him grow and thrive, was worth infinitely more than any amount of money. Tomorrow was Sunday. He and Minho had plans to visit Jiwon at the hospital and watch her teach her art therapy class. Then they would come home and spend the afternoon painting together in the garden. Simple plans. Ordinary plans. But they were the kind of plans that built a real life, a real relationship, real happiness. Dae-sung smiled to himself in the darkness of his son's room. He had spent years chasing success, thinking it would make him happy. But happiness had been here all along, waiting for him to slow down and notice it. All it had taken was a kind stranger to show him the way. He whispered into the quiet room, knowing Minho couldn't hear him but needing to say it anyway. "Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for painting that picture. Thank you for bringing Jiwon into our lives. I love you, son, and I promise I'll be here every day for the rest of your life." Outside, the stars shone brightly over Seoul. Inside, a father stood guard over his sleeping son. And somewhere across the city, a young woman drove home thinking about how one simple choice to help a child had led to all of this. She had no way of knowing that her kindness would continue to ripple outward, touching more and more lives as the years went on. She just knew that helping Minho had felt like the right thing to do, and sometimes doing the right thing is its own reward. But sometimes if you're very lucky, it becomes something more. It becomes the beginning of something beautiful that changes everyone involved. It becomes proof that small acts of kindness can create miracles. It becomes a story worth telling, worth remembering, worth living. This was that kind of story, and it was far from over. It was really just beginning.